Start. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Lao Tzu. Starting is the scariest thing, and it 100% means it's the right thing we need to do. May we have the courage to be fearless and seize the day in its glorified optimization. Now go shine like the diamond you are. How are you, amazing people? It's great to meet you again in a very different background, as I promised in the last video, my first video. Thank you all for really engaging with it. I'm so happy to be in the space to share more knowledge and light with the world. So it's a very, very exciting one today, because we'll be getting through the journey of starting, which tackles the part of self-mastery in what we did get to cover last time, in the journey of self-discovery, self-mastery, to living as the best version of ourselves. So the two books that will be there to use today are The Mountain Is You by Brianna West and Atomic Habits by James Clear. And the best part about being in this background is I'll be there to tap in 1, 2, 3 books as we get to do this. And one of the books I can quickly get my hands on is The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. He's one of my favorite actually authors for the longest period. And one thing about this book, I don't want to be a spoiler because it's a very short sweet book which talks about hidden treasures. Sometimes we think what we need in our life is somewhere else in the world, but sometimes what we need to do is really look and search within, and we get to find that. So I don't know how the universe decided this, but for me, the main catalyst to starting this channel, which I've always wanted to do, it got to be a very, very emotional journey for me. I was just in the middle of travels. I love traveling, and it was a trip I made to South Africa in Cape Town, and I did take a trip to Robben Island, where I did get to see how it was for the first president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, and the other prisoners who were there. And I was so lucky to meet one of them. It's called Mr. Spicer, who actually is a tour guide as you're making the trip. And it was that point that I felt the real need and urge to start this, because we always find reasons to not start, to not do what we know. You always know, your conscience tells you, your intuition, you always know what you need to do in your path in this journey of life, but sometimes we always hold back. We have so many fears. We create it all of them by our thought process, because in our purity, as we were being raised as kids, we've been very confident. So at what point do we start the self-sabotage journey of not really showing up as the best version that we are, because we have it all within us? So as I'm doing this video, we'll be there to showcase 1, 2, 3 scenes in South Africa, Robben Island. I hope you really do get to enjoy this. And the reason I'm doing this is to share with you a special moment that happened to me while I was there. I actually did get to break down a good one because of Mr. Spicer when he was sharing how it's a healing journey for him. You can imagine those many decades ago, he was a prisoner. Literally, he was there. If you're undergoing a tough turmoil in your life, you never want to go back there, because 1, it's very, very traumatizing. 2, whenever you get that liberation to be in another space, you run away as fast as you can to go and heal and live a life altogether separate from what you had known for a couple of decades, and much tolerance of torture. But what did Mr. Spicer do? He felt that he needs to be there, stick in the same prison where he felt the most humiliated, as every other prisoner did. And the reason he did this is because he's pretty much one of the only remaining prisoners or people from back then, because most of them have passed on by now. Others are very unwell in wheelchairs and being taken care of in special homes. So for him, he felt if he doesn't come to do this, who will be there to share the story of how it was, as real as it was? So he chose this journey, and he feels he lives his purpose every day, and he considers it therapy, taking people around. So I hope you do get to be in the moment, feel like you're literally in Robben Island. I will try as much as I can to share the much videos I did get to capture while there. Thank you. A New Earth was married while traveling to Cape Town. That was in October 2022. The special trip to Robben Island, you get to waterfront, then use the Crotoa ship. Such a lovely, lovely trip. I am Mandela a lover of the sea, so this was a very, very interesting trip to be by the ship, and I love how they prepare you for the journey ahead by taking you through the Nelson Mandela journey, as well as the rest of the people who are in prison at the same time, and prepare you mentally for what lies ahead.
Here to honor those who suffered for freedom and justice in our land. What you will experience today will be truly unforgettable. For over 20 years now, we have ferried thousands of people on this pilgrimage to the South African National Heritage Site. Today, we are proud to be traveling on the Crotoa. This boat carries the name of an important woman in the history of our country. As a girl, she was an interpreter between the Dutch and Khoi. She lived on Robben Island as the post holder's wife, only to return there as the first woman political prisoner. She died on Robben Island in 1674. Please relax and pay attention as we take you on this special journey.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at Marais Bay Harbour. All passengers, please take your seats and remain seated until the ferry is safely alongside.
It was so interesting when we got to Robben Island and we did take the bus trip. This lady is so humorous, like she had jokes for days.
I hope that you didn't come here to colonize us again. People from America,
Yes.
from its state in America. California, how's Arnold Schwarzenegger doing? How's Arnold? He's not the Terminator, he's the Terminator. Back to the movies, he always promised us that we'll be back. People from Germany,
Ja,
Guten Morgen.
guten Morgen.
Wie geht's?
Gut,
Sehr gut. Herzlich willkommen auf der Insel.
danke.
Bitte schön. People from Ireland. We've got a dual citizenship.
It was such an experience to be in the bus, and she did take us through the whole prison trip. She showed us the church and then the lime quarry. So if you ever noticed, Nelson Mandela could not see us clearly, and this was because of the impact of the lime quarry that did affect his vision, and as soon as he was the president, he did undergo surgery. So just by listening to this, it was already getting into that momentum of what was ahead on this trip. One thing I did get to learn, which I stand for, is Ubuntu. If you look across, I know it's in the bus, but you can see there's a part where there is a circle of stones assembled together, which all the prisoners did as a representation of unity, of standing together and standing strong. Then still we did get to stop at a place where we viewed Cape Town from the side of the island, which is a it's actually breathtaking to just watch the other side of the city from here. And after this, that's when we did get to meet Mr. Spicer, who did take us through the prisons. It started from a very sad perspective, where he's sharing that there were these beast dogs that were always ready to chase them. I just did record 6 seconds. I was trying to, as much as I can, to be present in the moment.
Deal with you viciously and in front of us.
And I did capture bits here and there because I felt I will need this in the future. I know the future is here with us, so I'm glad I can share snippets of this part. And then he gets to share about the trauma of just being faced by 2 gunmen. I like his version, so it's best we listen to him as he narrates it.
In F section courtyard, where we used to eat and exercise. We were forced to squatter there to eat, whether it's raining or not raining. And on our right-hand side, we have a sport field. We used to play rugby and soccer there only on Sundays for 30 minutes. The other days we have to go and work there in lime and stone quarry. And also around this prison, there are some 2 towers. So each and every tower, there were some 2 guards carrying R1 rifle machine guns. Those guards were waiting for any inconvenience that may happen here on
After
Robben.
this, we did get to see some prison wards, which literally were holding hundreds of people, and they're very tiny bits, and they did get to lie on silo sacks. That's all they had, no covers, no nothing. That's what they did get to use. And South Africa has very harsh climate. It actually did get to snow back then, so you can imagine such an environment, and there were no doctors available. It would be very, very tough for them, and most of them would actually perish due to pneumonia and other cold impact diseases. The part I did get to share earlier, where I'm doing this, Mr. Spicer getting to share about how this has been a healing journey for him.
Nelson Mandela. I myself was called 5683. And Nelson Mandela was called 46664. And we were given a yellow card. On that yellow card, they will write your new name. So that was the yellow card of Billy Naya, who was serving 20 years in.
If you reflect and see the parts that we make in life, we choose parts that feel more comfortable for us. No one wants an uncomfortable face, but sometimes that's where our life purpose is more inclined to, as Mr. Spicer. So getting to tour people every day in a place where he did get to face so much trauma is unique in its own way, and it defines the whole journey of us having our different purposes in the universe. This was a letter. Good Lord, you would be sent letters by your family, and they would choose what part of the letter you get to read, which beats the whole point of family members reaching out to you, because you get to see like an aid of what they meant to communicate to you. So it was interesting to see this part of the letter I can't believe it was written in 1974. I think it's very interesting, and it's good to just take a break from the much serious conversation we've had going on. My dear Uncle Gov, I have just returned from a snooping spree and met an old man who complained of old age creeping on. I replied that he should have a more positive attitude, mind over matter, Jazz. He was angry and said, Me, what do you know about me? I used to drive a milk tanker, the largest one in this country. I hid in that tanker, Hitler's most wanted criminal. When the said criminal was removed from the tanker, not only was he drenched in milk, but he was near cheese. I am a hopeless correspondent, but for Phil's nagging, I would not have got down to this. This task is impossible. How to say what to say. I think it's super cool that one would write a letter like this in 1974. Then truly he was the most wonderful person I have known. He spoke Tamil and was a great philosopher. He was a market gardener. He grew flowers too, and what pride he took in his patch, waking early and watering late in the evening. I can see him now with his battered hat on his head, weeding, picking, washing carrots. On Thursday evening, we tied bunches of carrots, beetroots, dania, etc., packed and pushing his cart with a jug full of sour porridge from his gullet. Some parts of the letter, obviously, one cannot read, which is sad, but it's interesting to see that kind of humor back in the days. Yeah, and the conclusion to this part of the narration is at the courtyard, where they did get to play all types of it's actually a basketball yard, and Nelson did get to plant a wine vineyard. It's a vine plant, yes, and an apple tree will have a shorting part based on the quotes that Nelson left behind following this. For now, we listen to the narration that is happening at this point. And I love also this joke about the Minister of Transport. Enjoy.
The long walk to freedom, and the authorities found his book, and he was punished. They didn't allow him to study for 4 years. Nelson Mandela had already given another copy of the book to Mac Maharaj, the then Minister of Transport. Mac Maharaj was due to be released in 1976, and he smuggled the book outside the prison. And the book was read all over the world. Surprisingly, after our democratic elections of 1994, Nelson Mandela elected Mac Maharaj as the Minister of Transport because he was good on transportation of information. So let's proceed.
Watching and having a look at Nelson Mandela's cell was a lot to handle. Thinking about that for over 15 years, he used that bucket as his toilet for all that time. My God. Yeah, sometimes what we have to go through to deliver exactly what we were brought out in this world to do. Nelson had choices about the mission of fighting for freedom, but the long walk to freedom, clearly he had to go through this. And that's how we get to share the part of Nelson Mandela's biography, Long Walk to Freedom, in the garden that his book was hidden. A taste of freedom. To plant a seed, watch it grow, to tend it, and then harvest it, offered a simple but enduring satisfaction. The sense of being the custodian of this small patch of earth offered a taste of freedom. A quote from Nelson Mandela. The gardener, the leader. Like the gardener, a leader must take responsibility for what he cultivates. He must mind his work, try to repel enemies, preserve what can be preserved, and eliminate what cannot succeed. Nelson Mandela Day. On 18 July 2013, Cape Town International Airport brought 67 learners from disadvantaged communities to Robben Island to expose them to the legacy of Nelson Mandela in Robben Island. Symbolism of the tree to the learners. Your circumstances do not define who you are. It is your actions that define your destiny. I will read that again. Your circumstances do not define who you are. It is your actions that define your destiny. I like how this takes us back to atomic habits. It's the simple actions that get us there. As the apple tree grows, it emulates its environment. So did Nelson Mandela use his circumstances to mold the person he became. And I like how he found it very therapeutic to him to just see the plant grow and actually think of tilling that only part. Sometimes we think we are very limited by space, but you can imagine this, for starters, is a prison, but he still found a way to make life happen in the limiting spaces. Get to enjoy the view of the Crotoa with me. That's us heading back to waterfront in Cape Town. Such a lovely place to be. And now you can say you've also been to Cape Town. And I got to catch a few snippets on our way back of Nelson talking about freedom and how he was the most demanded person to be released from prison. Thank you for engaging in this space. Catch you later. As always, never goodbyes here.
Stay heavy, stay heavy, stay heavy, stay heavy, stay heavy, stay heavy. Stay heavy. Stay heavy.